I would like to thank the two organizers, the Dean of Arts class, Violeta Dinescu, and the Dean of the Medicine class, Dušan Šuput, once again for putting together this evening's program. My impression is that there are two very ambitious topics this evening. The first lecture will be about a deeply human characteristic that has preoccupied scholars since ancient times. What is humor? How is humor expressed in art? Especially this evening, we will consider in painting. In the age of AI, artificial intelligence, the question immediately arises as to whether a chatbot, for example, can be humorous or merely simulates humor. Is there ultimately such a thing as AI humor? That means a kind of humor of its own that is typical for AI systems? Or does the AI ultimately not understand humor and is completely humorless, like some humans do, which can be, of course, dangerous? I'm very familiar with the work of the second lecturer, Günther Schiepek, from previous collaborations. We are all familiar with the images of fractal geometry, in which the self-organization of complex patterns and structures in nature is expressed. With the computer, this creates completely new worlds of aesthetical appeal. As psychotherapist, Günther Schiepek has documented the data from the course of illness and therapies in such images. It is remarkable how psychotherapists can draw conclusions about people's mental states from such pictures and images and patterns. In the end, the common question this evening is how much our mental and emotional life, from humor to illness and pain, can be expressed through art, computers, and AI. I'm very curious, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I would like now to present Ioannis Melanitis. He is an artist. He was born in 1967 in Athens, and he has already 3 degrees. He is an artist, theorist, and associate professor at the Athens School of Fine Arts, Vice-Rector of International Relations and Extroversion. Melanitis' work initiates from a theoretization of contemporary art strategies, emphasizing the role of code and information, considering information as a new conceptualism. He has exhibitions and published worldwide, Brazil, in Portugal, in Belgium, in China, and he was also represented in the NYU, New York University in New York. I would like to invite Ioannis Melanitis to come to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Violeta and Mr. President, for this honor, and dear colleagues. I would like to say that when I was introduced to this academy, the first thing that came to my knowledge was Mr. President's declaration in Venice, in the gardens of Venice, where he connects a Platonic dialogue with the garden, which means that philosophers start from a point inside nature, from a point where the dialectics begin, which is completely different from the computers, of course. And today I would like to make some statements and present the main point, which is if it's possible today to paint after artificial intelligence and the machines. If it's possible for a painter to have some sort of painting by traditional means in a new way, using traditional media. So I'm making a share screen. Hope you can see it. Okay. And I will present some ideas how a painter is trying to make an Iconopoeia, which is a way to make icons, to produce images, and what is the connection of this to the humor produced by the machine, by the machines, as the president, our president already was referring to in his opening speech. So artificial intelligence and art, how these topics are merging and what do they have in common. And I will try to define the role of the machines in artificial intelligence art. If there's a kind of dialectics with the machines, and if it's at the end possible to parameterize painting and invent a synthesis, a method. If there is a way to have a methodology connecting these two issues, artificial intelligence and painting. The mechanical element in the arts is something not any new. Leonardo's allegory of mechanical fluidity is represented in this very unique drawing, an iconic design for the advent of the new machine age. This drawing is entitled The Storm of Tools. So while the analysis of nature generated ideas for new machines, the mechanical element creates a saturation of functions, testing humans' endurance in their use. At the bottom of the drawing, Leonardo's footnote says, "O human misery, how many things you have enslaved just for money." If you can see in the drawing, there is a cloud raining tools. It's a sketch of a torrent of objects falling to earth from storm clouds, a cloudburst of material possessions. The same problem is apparent also in Bruegel, another painter, where the mechanization of the body's functions might not be enough to serve life's needs. The discrepancy of planning and execution, thinking and action. The machinic problem is actually a problem of information. We can see here the human body unable to fulfill the mechanization process. So the bread falls from the table. How does an artist works? First of all, he can use a code, an artist's code. In Greek, the compiled code is συγκεχημένος κώδικας, a mixed fluid code. He has to find a way to codify his art, his methodology. What the artist produces actually is confusion, and I will give an example. We all know that Odysseus, in pursuit of information, when he's back to his ideal Ithaca, he encounters the mirage of goddess Athena. The foremost convenient strategy chosen by the goddess is to convert him into a beggar. So the artist is disguised as a beggar, seeking for tatters of code. It's code clusters, junk code, fragments, rags, scraps. Everything can be rearranged in benefit of the artist. So the strategies of the artist will be analyzed here later, and I will show how we can find a methodology to oil painting using code and artificial intelligence. In the lab, the artist is alone with the painting. So the idea was to construct something like a female voice, a female intelligence voice, a helper, which I call I-Chirche, in order to discuss, to have some dialectics. So the noetic procedure inside the mind of the artist can be after a dialectics with I. That was the initial idea. We all know that Salvador Dali, for example, had a very specific method he called the paranoiac critical method. Giuseppe and Archibald also had the reconstruction method of recombining objects to form a new image. This led me to the idea that artificial intelligence might be used as a critical tool in the procedure. Critical by means not give you just the outcome, but give you some recombining ideas starting with the dialectics procedure. So first of all, I made a fusion, an image between my head and my wife's. Let me make it play.
During the creation of an artwork, two main parameters might determine the outcome. The incompetence of technique to equalize with no EASA, and the uncertainty of individual steps, designated as most proper on the conceptual direction of the artwork. Both of these quantities produce a feedback phase in mind. Additionally, they are perceived by the artist as an impediment and consist a measurable operation. Both these elements considered hereinafter as quantified produce a feedback stage in the artist's cognition.
So what I did was to consult technicians. I code myself a little, but not so good like people that do specifically this. And we constructed a software, a female art mentor, let's say, which I call I-Chirche. And here's the delineation of this. And it has a specific way to combine images in order to rearrange things in a new way. Now, it cannot only be this female figure, this mentor, intelligent mentor, cannot only be digital. I also made a robot. Let's see a very small sample interacting.
Lena, I missed you, darling. Where is Mariana? Did you paint today?
Yeah, here it interacts with the students just for fun. So it's actually a robot inside the lab. So you can ask it and have a discussion with the robot on what you want to paint, how you want to paint it. Now, the problem that comes with all machines is humor. We think that humor is something human, but this is not the case. Animals also have humor. And the problem here I have to pose, to think about, is if machines also have humor, and if this humor they produce, because they can produce humor, is something new, if it is a new invention, a new humor, unpredictable for us, and how it affects us. Now, as the president said, there's something very strange with people that do not laugh. So who speaks and who thinks? Let me here make a reference to a very important Heraclitus passage. And the Sibyl with raving mouth, Agelast, unadorned and unperfumed, thonking, 1,000-year traverses with her voice through God. In Greek, it goes like, «Σίδηλα δε μενωμένο στόματι αγέλαστα και ακαλόπιστα και αμύριστα φθεγωμένη 1,000 ετών εξυκνείται τη φωνή δια των θεών». Notice the word φθεγωμένη. Φθεγωμένη in Greek means thongs, not words, not real meanings, but messages in the base of language, as James Joyce says, which is thonking, like babies, like making information in the basis of speaking language. And Agelast, who is an Agelast? So this word Agelast first appears in Heraclitus. Sibylla Agelasta, she's Agelast, she's not laughing. Who is an Agelast? The one who never laughs. Democritus, the philosopher, was mentioned as an hypergelast philosopher who theorizes nature's mechanization. We all know Democritus' atomic theory. So evidently, humor may be examined as a swerve of order, something unpredictable, unpredictable signals, very important in the process of human evolution. And after it, we can also think in the Iliadic verse where Hephaestus seems to be accompanied by golden mechanical women, resembling real girls supporting him. These women had also learned women's art from the gods. Here, please notice the information coming directly from the gods. And this is a very important paradigm of intelligence as a mechanism that can educate machines through a code. This is the first paradigm of artificial intelligence in the traditional texts. So, how do we make this something like in a form of painting? It's the Homo Agelastus. It's a series of portraits that we see political figures who do not laugh, which is very scaring. Rabelais, the comic writer, a French comic writer, reused the term Agelast in order to give us a man who never laughs is really someone that has no connection with society. He's out of this world. He never laughs. This is very suspicious. And now the paintings, if you see, there is always something between laughing and not laughing. Nobody laughs, but it's the humor hidden inside. How is the Agelast appearing in an oil painting? By painting in a way that the machine cannot do yet. I have to paint in a new way. Yet, I think I have some time before the machines overthrow everything. So, here is an example of a software that makes crayon software. When we make a prompt to apes in the jungle reading books, we can find it really humorous, but the machine cannot laugh. We are the ones who laugh. The real problem is, when will machines realize humor? Before that, I think we have some time to paint. Here is Xi Jinping, the President of People's Republic of China. He is composed of several parts of animals, human entrails, vegetables, etc. This is another portrait. This is Trump, made of meat and feather, and sometimes I paint with this one hair handmade brass. You can see the feather, which represents his hair, and the nose, also hair, and meat on the cheeks, on the forehead. This is a very detailed process, step by step, layer by layer, like the Leonardo's technique. Another example like Bill Clinton's portrait of innocence. Again, in a wooden panel, you can see the details of the meat and the hair. This is also a rabbit upside down, which forms his hat. This is an intento, geoponics. This is a portrait of Super Mario, constituted from vegetables. This is also a portrait of Gaius Petronius. You can see also he's not laughing, because he's a very important philosopher for me, Gaius Petronius, because he, as we know, he committed suicide after he learned that the emperor will kill him, sent his soldiers to kill him. So he had some time to start bleeding, and then cover the wounds, started philosophizing again, and then the wounds, he wrote the Satyricon, the book Satyricon. It's a very important book. This is oil on unprimed linen, and you can see the butterflies near his ear. A view of the lab. So, can we parameterize painting? How exactly can we do this? The method for me is to take some ideas from artificial intelligence and make the Agelast hidden inside the portrait. So the smile of the Agelast is an act of non-fluidity during his timelessness. We can see something stopped, but humor is entrapped inside. Smiling is a very, very important thing that we think is something different from the animals in the Aristotelian terms. But artificial intelligence can give some new ideas how we can recombine some images and rethink about humor. And this is an image of the sister of Kim Jong, the Korean leader, made through my efforts through artificial intelligence, which afterwards I paint in oil. And ending, the smile of the Agelast as an end of non-fluidity during his timelessness. So who smiles? The depicted person or the painting itself? No one. Who is the humor aimed at? Can machines consciously laugh? Not so far. The smile of the Agelast is not comical. It is a smile of the unsmiling. The ugly hero reserves for himself exclusively of a last laugh. Apart from representing the eternal laughter of a paralyzed face, the Agelast is entrapped in the painting. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. Also incredible to what we discover with your talk. We shall have the opportunity after the second lecture to ask you and to listen more from what you have to say. Thank you very much. I would like now to present Günther Schiepek. He's university professor and director of the Institute Synergetics and Psychotherapy Research at the Paracelsus Medical University in Salzburg, and of the Center for Complex Systems in Stuttgart, in Germany. Since 2008, he is professor at Ludwig Maximilian's University in Munich and at the Paracelsus Medical University in Salzburg. He's also visiting professor at the Donau University in Krems and at the Alpen-Adria-University in Austria, in Klagenfurt. He is also a member of our academy. I'm very happy to invite Günther Schiepek. Hello?
Yes, hello, can you hear me? Okay, thank you so much for inviting me. I will share my screen. Can you see my screen? Yes, okay.
Yes, we see.
Yes. Thank you for inviting me. I'm member of class 2 since 2009. And for some years, I also was vice dean of this class. And today I will talk about human development as an arts project from the perspective of chaos theory and synergetics. And we use for creating these arts products something like a speculum, which helps us to see in the enigmate of human development. So we have some computer technologies which are something like a paintbrush for designing human development. My background is in complexity science and in dynamic systems. And I will start with two pictures which illustrate what is a system and what is self-organization. It's drawing hands from Moritz Escher, symbolize very well what is a system. This is objects which are interacting, which are producing each other. And in every system, you have dynamics. So systems are producing dynamic patterns which can be represented by time series. And this is another picture from Salvador Dalí, Tête Raphaelesque éclatée, and it shows what Hermann Haken and his synergetic approach means by self-organization. This is a composition of many parts, which is ordered or in his terms enslaved by some order parameters. In these pictures, this is B stable. You see the head of an angel, and you see at the same time the couple of a cathedral like the Pantheon in Rome. So this illustrates what self-organization means, the spontaneous production of order out of the interaction of many parts. This is traditional painting and drawing since the 1970s and 1980s. We have these computer pictures of fractals and of chaotic patterns. For example, this is a well-known Julia manifold. There are also many other manifolds. And a lot of people were interested at the end of the 20th centuries to these fractals and to these chaotic patterns. What I will talk about here is not so much how complex systems are represented by drawings or by computer art, or in the last time by artificial intelligence. But I will talk about the artistic products, the aesthetics of human change processes. And our idea is starting from Beuys' verdict that everyone is an artist. We enlarged this verdict a little bit. Not only everyone could be an artist, but life itself is an artistic product. So living by everyone, whoever it may be, also, of course, our patients in medicine, are artists in the sense that the design of your life itself is a kind of art. And we used a machine, a digitalized device, which helps to monitor the human development, and we can open this black box of change processes of human development by an app-based, internet-based device, which allows to collect data from daily appraisals and daily assessments of, for example, the patients or other persons during a certain time in her life. We do this, for example, in psychotherapy, which is a very intensified, condensed period of human development, usually some months or 1 to 2 years. That's a general, in general, this is a period of psychotherapy, and we can create time series, multiple time series from these processes. This is the basic material we use for illustrating the art of human development. We have time series like this. This is from 3 patients. We see that the change dynamics is complex, is very specific, because the 3 time series, the yellow, the gray, and the blue one, are from 3 different persons. So each person has its own trajectories of change, and the developments are unpredictable because here we selected 3 time series which started almost at the same point. And we see that even the trajectories stayed almost identically. They change in a completely different way, which is the so-called butterfly effect from chaos. So these developments are unpredictable and by this very individualized, very specific. And what we can do now in terms of the aesthetics of these change processes, we can transfer these time series into colored maps, something like heat maps. The upper picture is a so-called raw resonance diagram. Each line is an item of a process questionnaire, and each pixel is an assessment given by a patient every day, once by day, during a period of about 3 months. And here we see no time series, but the time series is transformed into color codes. The blue ones are low values, and the orange, yellow, orange, red ones are high values. And if we see each line as a specific aspect of the development of this patient, we have something like a fingerprint of his developing process. And each line represents an aspect or a component of his mental life, like different emotions, fear or happiness, or joy, or sadness, whatever, or self-esteem, self-efficacy, and so on. So you have a spectrum of psychological aspects of the patient transformed in the dynamics of a color-coded picture. The lower is a so-called complexity resonance diagram, which transforms the values of the upper picture into a measurement we call dynamic complexity, which expresses the fluidity and the turbulence, the complexity of each line, which means of each item of the process questionnaire. Blue values mean low complexity, almost straight lines, and yellow, orange, and red pixels represent high complex dynamics, which represents the fluctuations and the instability of the process. And we see that almost all clinical processes, all processes of human development undergo critical instabilities, which not only Synergetics has described, but many important development psychologists like the Swiss development psychologist Jean Piaget, who described the patterns of change interrupted by unstable dynamics. With some more examples of color-coded raw data resonance diagram. It's called resonance diagram because it illustrates the resonance between all the lines, between all the aspects of mental functioning. And these are three different patients of the same diagnosis, obsessive-compulsive disorder, and also they have the same diagnosis. You see that the development process is completely different, but all have somewhere in his process, in their process, something like an order transition, or as it's called in physics, a phase transition, which is a qualitative transition from one pattern to another pattern. Some have one pattern transition, others have more than one. And this is a indicator and an important feature of human development. This is another picture of a complexity resonance diagram, and you see about in the middle of the development a period of resonance. This means in many items occurring critical instabilities. And you can discuss these pictures which represent the development of a human being, for example, a patient in psychotherapy, in the process of the therapeutic sessions. In almost all sessions, you can show to the patient the pictures of his development. You can discuss this, and by this kind of aesthetics, I do not know if this kind of colored representation fulfills all criteria of what you understand by arts, but it's a aesthetic representation of change processes, and you can discuss it, and you can draw your conclusions, you can make your decisions on the next step of the ongoing process. So in this way, this kind of arts is a feedback loop for optimizing human change processes. This is another representation of change and transitions, so-called recurrence plots, which is creating by embedding time series in a time delay phase space, and you can see where snippets, small parts of a longer period of change are similar to each other, and where the similarity is lost, and there is a transition in the dynamics of the change processes. Similar periods are more or less stable periods, which are called recurrent, and transition or unstable periods are colored by red pixels, and these are the transitions of the change processes. Also here you have different so-called recurrence plots for each patient, for each development process of the patients. And these color-coded pictures are like abstract pictures, you know, from different artists. But here, with the help of the digitalized tool, we call it Synergetic Navigation System, it is painted by the patient itself. The patient itself is the artist who expresses his development by this nice picture. This is another picture of a recurrence plot, very different patterns you can see for many, many patients in different ways. This is another way of illustrating human change processes. You can intercorrelate the items of your multiple process questionnaire. It has multiple items, and you can intercorrelate the dynamics, the time series of each item in a gliding window, and the window is running over the whole process. And then you can correlate all the patterns, all the correlation patterns, and see where the correlation patterns are similar and where the correlation patterns are dissimilar or changing. So you have some kind of a meta correlation, which color codes the stability and the instability of the inter-item correlation, the correlation between different emotions, cognitions, behaviors, and whatever is measured and represented by this process questionnaire. Blue means stable patterns, and red means unstable patterns. And this is, for example, a patient who had very stable intercorrelation patterns at the beginning. Stability is a landmark and a feature of pathology over stabilized patterns, not flexible, not adaptive. And in the process of change, the patient gets more and more flexible, and the correlation between these patterns is reduced, which is illustrated by red color. And this is a representation of interpersonal dynamics, in this case, a group of 7 persons. We call these interaction matrices, and the arrows symbolize what the patients or the members of the group are sending to each other. For example, the green ones represent support, which is given from one member of this group to the other, and the red is stress, which is sent from one member to the other, and the space around the arrow in the cells represents the way and the intensity where the sended message, the sended support, for example, is experienced by the other person. And this can also be done several times, and these patterns represent the dynamics of this small group over time. Some years ago, we had a exhibition of all these pictures at the Technical University of Ulm in Germany, and they showed all these pictures in an exhibition, so we could make some kind of arts out of therapeutic input. This is another project, not so much based on empirical time series data, but on a theoretical model of psychotherapy. This was one of the first theoretical models based on nonlinear mathematical equations, coupled nonlinear equations, which can produce and simulate the change dynamics of psychotherapy. We had 5 variables or order parameters, which were represented by 5 equations. The variables are problem and symptom in severity, intensity. motivation for change, experienced success and therapeutic progress of the patient, insight, development of new perspectives in the life of the persons, and intensity of emotions. All these are important factors for understanding what's going on in therapeutic change processes. And we define some functions which are interrelating these 5 variables, and the functions can be modified and modulated. The shape of the functions, the nonlinear functions, can be modified by some so-called control parameters. Here, the control parameters are responsible for reshaping the functions between the variables. The control parameters are therapeutic alliance, cognitive competencies, behavior resources, and trait motivation, positive expectation in the process. The parameters modify the functions. The degree of the intensity of the control parameter change the nonlinear functions, and what is resulting is these chaotic time series for each of the 5 variables. It looks a little bit like noise, but it isn't noise. It's some kind of complex order. And if you embed the time series into a phase space created by time lag embedding, you see these beautiful attractors, which also can be seen as some kind of art product. These attractors represent the trajectories of change of a patient over time, over a longer period of time. And this was one of the first theories in psychology which was based on mathematical equations, a computational model of human change dynamics. But these are so-called bifurcation diagrams, which also have something like beautiful aesthetics. Here on the x-axis, you don't have the time, but a small step changes of the control parameters. As I told you, we used 4 control parameters, and if you create the dynamics of the systems with different values of the control parameters in very small steps, increasing step by step, you create a dynamics which can be put on the y-axis, on the ordinate, and you see which values are realized exactly at this value of the control parameter. And if you do this a lot of times, 1,000 times, you see what is realized in this system by the system dynamics at different values of the control parameters. And you see this is not at all noise. This has a beautiful pattern over the whole period of changing control parameters, so-called bifurcation diagram. Now, to come to an end, in a quite different project, we coded the communication behavior, the interactive behavior of a therapist and of a client, of a patient, in small steps of 10 seconds. We had a video of 19 sessions. A session is about 15 minutes of therapeutic conversation, and we coded the behavior of therapist and client in segments of 10 seconds over a longer period of time, 19 sessions. And in the first 10 seconds, we saw specific behaviors. We coded 3 behaviors out of 7 of the client. For example, shows that you are interested in the solution of your problems, but also protect yourself from change. This is a little bit ambiguous and contradicting, but contradictions are very specific for human beings, for our experience, for our behavior. Here, the next 10 seconds, and you see we code some of these behaviors, and these are the next 10 seconds, and so on. And by this we can code, for example, 1 session of the client-therapist interaction. We have a pattern of behavior during 1 session of 50 minutes, and this was coded over a longer period of time of 19 sessions. You see that some of these coded behaviors are more or less enduring. They are continuous or tone, and others are occur very seldom. For example, the 6 type of behavior of the therapist from the top. And you see that this kind of behavior was realized only 2 times during 50 minutes of sessions. This is confrontation. The therapist confronts the patient with his problematic or his dysfunctional behavior, and you see that's very seldom that he does this. Perhaps many of you are composers. This remembers you to the partiture of music, and indeed you can transform the coded behavior, in this case of 2 persons, client and therapist, into music, into sound. And that's exactly what we did. That's what is called a sonification of the empirical dynamics, in this case, of human behavior. You can do this also with EEG data and other signals you can measure during a change process in an empirical system. And to finalize this presentation, I can place its unification. Here we have almost 19 hours condensed into 16 minutes of sonificated behavior. I will simply start this, and I hope it will work. I hope you can hear the sound. Can you hear this?
I do not, but by maybe the other ones.
Not, so perhaps I have to.
Nu s-a auzit, Violeta, nu s-a auzit.
No, I do not
have,
hear.
Sorry, I have to
Try again, yeah.
I have to try again. I have to click at give a sound. Now?
Yes, yeah.
So this is behavior of 2 persons realized and patient, videotape, coded, and sonification. Okay, thank you for your attention. This is
Yeah.
how we make arts from coding, self-coding, videotape coding, and mathematical theoretical models of psychotherapy. Thank you so much for your
Oh,
attention.
thank you very much. It was interesting. If you would have begin with this music, maybe some people would say this is gamelan music. Meaning a strange kind of clocks. So thank you very much. I would
Yes,
like
it's
now.
like tubular bells. This is
Yeah.
kind of tubular bells, but it's not composed. That's not produced by AI and artificial production, but it's really produced by the behavior of two interacting people.
Incredible, yeah. And when you before you presented the music, you said, also you called it score. And I was thinking, oh yeah, it's really near to a score for a composer. So thank you very much. So I would like now, Dušan, are you here? We would like now to open our third section.
Please ask the questions, and maybe just to break the ice, I'll ask Professor Schiepek one question, which is maybe not completely correct because I could not follow all the time. I had from time to time to do something with my eye. But in general, I would say that there's a kind of pattern recognition that would help you to see a mental state of a patient.
Yeah.
And pattern recognition is really the main thing in artificial intelligence, which is in use now in medicine, let's say actually also in other sciences. But so they think that artificial intelligence can recognize mental illness or some special mental state in a human, which is a very complex thing.
Yeah. Yes.
So that's my question. What do you think about that?
Yes, I agree. Here we have a very specific coding which comes from self-assessments by patients, and the last example come from video coding. But what you can with artificial intelligence is to integrate many sources of empirical data, for example, coded by your smartphone, which codes movement and flexibility or rigidity of your behavior, which codes your speech and analyzes the frequency patterns of your speech. Mm-hmm. And it codes also how you are sleeping, quiet or unquiet in your bed during the night, where you are moving. Are you staying at home, or you are moving abroad or somewhere else? How often and how intensely you are contacting with other peoples, and taking together all these database, artificial intelligence is able to identify, for example, diagnosis. For example, depressed people have specific kinds of behaviors. There are specific kinds of speech frequencies, frequency patterns of your speech, analyzing the acoustics of your speech. And by this, indeed, it is possible to identify diagnosis. This was not the topic I talked about because, as I said,
but extension of what you
extension, yes. And I also did not use artificial intelligence. Now we are combining mathematics and artificial intelligence for improving our pattern detection. So background of our methods is time series analysis algorithms, which are able to identify patterns in time series but what I showed you is based on mathematical methods. So this is not artificial intelligence, but it's very intelligent also. It identifies patterns. It's not called artificial intelligence, but indeed it is. Our president, Klaus Mainzer, was occupied with these computational methods of our world, also of human beings, biological and psychological data since long time. And I hope we can agree that not only artificial intelligence, but also intelligent mathematics can identify patterns, perhaps better than human beings can do it.
But how do you validate your
Thank you.
finding that?
Wonderful. Yeah. Yeah.
Can I give a short answer?
Another one. Yeah, we have 3 questions also, but
Okay,
you have another one.
One short sentence to this question on how do we validate these pattern recognition methods. We can ask our patients in the clinical interviews how he experiences his development, and mostly he agrees that the patterns represent his own experience. Then he can also write diaries day by day, and we can validate the qualitative and the quantitative data by comparing each other. And we have different methods from multiple time series. That's not only one, that's about 30, 40 time series representing the change process. And we can compare the dynamic patterns of the different time series. And I think that's really a good validation, much better than a single point evaluation by one assessment, one time point.
Excellent.
Thank you so much. Thank you also. I saw first Peter Hermann, then Klaus Mainzer, and Ioannis Lyritis. I would like now to invite Peter Hermann. He wanted you, Peter, you would like to ask something or to comment.
Yeah, ask and comment. Beginning with artificial intelligence, mathematical intelligence, and their human intelligence, just Jane Austen comes to my mind, saying in one of her letters, which of all my important nothings shall I tell you first? So there is a certain pattern as well, but and this is going to ask then this what is important as in socio-individual question or matter. Soundification, yes, but there is a difference. I think, I hope the artists agree there is a difference between sound and music. I appreciate this soundification, but I think we should not confuse it with music as well. That coming to the abstract paintings, you said these are similar to abstract paintings. I'm hesitating to agree. Isn't it more a concrete, not abstract, representation, not a painting, not something exactly about these important nothings, but a calculated, in which way ever calculated, regularity pattern, which is not abstract, but it is very concrete, representing behavior or whatever is measured, thinking, acting. Mm-hmm. And then it is part of, you mentioned at one stage, it's highly individualized. Isn't it highly socialized? Because linking actually to the first presentation as well, what is humor is depending not on my personal decision, highly individualized, it is as well. But if you go from one country to another, you will soon mention you can't laugh about things other people in other countries. It's so funny. And you are sitting there, huh? Why are they laughing? or the other way around. So I'm struggling a little bit with this individualization, socialization, and then in a general term, whichever way we detect patterns, if we are not forcing something into a pattern instead of simply recognizing patterns. I think there's a danger always that we overestimate or overemphasize the meaning of patterns. At some stage, then coming to the self-fulfilling prophecy, well, if this is the pattern, we have to accept it, we have to laugh, even if it's not funny. And we laugh.
So, thank you very much
for this comment. I fully agree. Is this a question to
me? Question and comment. If you have if you have comments, further comments or answers, both of you, I appreciate it.
Yes, yes. I fully agree. And I did not say that this sonification is music, and these colored patterns are abstract paintings, like Kandinsky, of course not. And you can discuss if this is arts or is simply an aesthetic representation of an individual pattern, of course.
Thank you so much. So Klaus Mainz, our president.
Yeah, I have a short comment to Ioannis Melanitis and a question to Günther Schiepek. My comment to Ioannis Melanitis, I like very much your historical foundation, even in the antiquity, concerning the topic of humor. And I missed a little bit, you highlighted Plato with his radical critique of humor and of laughing, because he thought that should be prevented, that should prevent humans from rigorous logical thinking. But on the other hand, you know, there is his famous student Aristotle. And I only want to give a hint. You all know Umberto Eco. And Umberto Eco, in his famous novel, In the Name of the Rose, in the core, there is this terrible history that an old monk tried to hide a treatise of Aristotle on laughing, on humor, because Aristotle wanted to highlight that is typical for life. And this monk want to prevent that this news are discovered by the younger monks, for example. And I think there's a wonderful story, and it highlights the deep characteristic of humor for humans. And actually, of course, I'm more or less an expert in AI, but actually, with respect to modern AI and know what is going on there in the foundation, I doubt that machines are nowadays able to have something like humor. And perhaps I'm a little bit skeptical concerning even the future. But that would be, of course, a topic of discussion. But now to Günther Schiepek, the question is very simple. You highlighted these wonderful structures and pictures, and you underlined in the end, these are mathematical equations. Nonlinear equations with their nonlinear dynamics that can nowadays wonderfully with picture illustrated. And so the question is, to the point, what has the aesthetics of mathematical equations or structures to do with the topic which is modeled by these equations? That is not only a problem for therapy or psychology, but nowadays everywhere, you know, in molecular biology, in chemistry nowadays, in physics, in atom physics. The atoms and the molecular structures are wonderfully imaged nowadays. And this kind of computing and imaging is a hot topic nowadays in chemistry. And some years ago, a Nobel Prize in chemistry was given for molecular computer scientists who did not discover new molecular structures, but they were able to highlight these structures by colors and so on. And we all know these atoms and molecules are not colored and things like that. That is our aesthetics with the mathematical structure. So my question is, please illustrate or explain us a little bit more about the connection between the object and the imaging in the case of psychotherapy.
The equations are behind this theoretical modeling project, which I presented. The other pictures are based on mathematical algorithms for time series analysis and color-coded representation of the results, like dynamic complexity or recurrence plots. But in this one case, I think what is resulting is these attractors and transitions of attractors and these bifurcation diagrams, which are aesthetic artifacts of mathematics in this case. So this is not arts, perhaps. I think there are more criteria that you can say this is arts, but it's an aesthetic artifact. I understand your question, Klaus, in this way. What is the aesthetics of mathematics in general, for example, of mathematical equations?
No, my point was a connection. Mathematics is fine and nice. That was already highlighted by Plato. But
yes.
What is the connection now with the objects? The molecules and the atoms have no color, and it's only the structure which is given by humans, by mathematical, and the same now for your field, for psychotherapy.
Yes. As a connection to the object here is human development in a certain period of time. And the model relates and explains the development in psychotherapy as we know it by some few equations. This means in these few equations we have a lot of knowledge of psychology and psychotherapy research in exactly 9 equations. And this is a relationship. I didn't talk about this here in this arts lecture, but there is a real basic and intensified, detailed foundation of these equations from psychological knowledge on how psychotherapy works, on what are the factors, and how we can understand better outcome and a bad outcome in psychotherapy. And then we can specify this even more. We can measure the variables I showed to you empirically, and we can measure the control parameters, and then we can really simulate a concrete development process of a real concrete patient, not only psychotherapy in general, but we can relate this to the object. This means this concrete patient, and this can be simulated by this model. And we can, for example, simulate interventions. Based on this model, we can simulate some interventions which could be done and we can see if this would work or if this would be dangerous or imply some risks for these patients. So your question can be answered in a very, very concrete way. This relates not only to psychotherapeutic dynamics in general, which are self-organized and realized by pattern transitions, but to a very concrete patient, and we can and this can help to the therapist to anticipate potential risks or potential effects of his interventions. Perhaps not for the long term, because all this is chaotic, and you know chaotic dynamics is not predictable on the long term. But on the short term, it's possible. It's possible to anticipate if you will be a critical period in the next 1 or 2 weeks. And so I can answer your question in a very concrete way. This relates to quite specific human beings.
Mamma mia, this is so exciting. Thank you very much. Ioannis Liritis wanted
Thank
also,
you, Violeta.
please.
Thank you, Violeta. Both the talks actually were so intriguing for me. I kept I kept some notes already that one could go on and on for hours. So I would like to make 2 comments. That I was triggered, by both of these excellent speakers tonight. For the first one, the topic that was very intriguing for me on Agelast and the laugh in relation to the science and arts, which involves a deep interpretation. The Agelast effects on people, I think, relate to biosemiotics, which is the idea that the life is based on semiosis, that is on science and codes. So this idea has been strongly, for example, suggested by the discovery of the genetic code, as Klaus said before. So far it has made little impact in the scientific world, and it's mostly regarded as a philosophy rather as a science. In my speculation, however, it is both art and science, as the approach for comprehension of Agelast and laughing includes this science and codes, which is of interdisciplinary nature. It involves the trio of existence of soul, spirit, and body. Besides, it has therapeutical results as well. So concerning the contemporary AI machines that produce complicated humoristic paradigms for mortals to experience, the result of human reaction remains to be seen in practice, I think. But as Ioannis Melanitis has quoted, an ambivalent character, the Agelast, and a joker-like machinic mannequin might be hypothesized that can produce visual jokes while not laughing. I like this. However, ancient classical philosophers, the founders of science, technology, and the study of life philosophy, approved the laughing, as was connected to happiness, and distinguish it from the seriousness and with a need to be serious in life. So we have to delve more carefully, in the interpretation of various theoretical approaches of such things, from ancient philosophy, including Plato, Aristotle, etc. For example, the Stoic pursuit of happiness and perfection does not preclude a sense of humor. On the contrary, I could say, it could be argued that a deep-seated ability to laugh at the absurdity of the world is an integral part of it. So nothing should make this clearer than the fact that one of the most influential and famous Stoics, Chrysippus, died laughing, literally. He died from belly laughing at the sight of a donkey eating figs in his garden. The Stoics were in fact of the mind that a humorous view of life was necessary in a world often marked by a pain and suffering and overwhelming emotions. So I have to thank you, Ioannis, for giving me this really triggering, you brought to our colloquium, and I thank you very much. Regarding the next talk, I would I think it ties, in my opinion, with the first one, as I perceived it. This talk of biosemiotics, the idea of life is based on science and codes, includes synergetics. Synergetics in the study of how systems interact to produce macroscopic, from microscopic to macroscopic, spatial and temporal or functional structures, but also known as theory of self-organization. And synergetics has applications not only in physics and chemistry, but also biology and sociology, as the speaker said, and in the perception, execution, and human artifact interaction in art. In order to use, for example, the concepts and notions of synergetics in humanities, in humanistic studies, especially art, we must take a new look at certain concepts and notions. For example, the notion of stability must be extended from the usual Lyapunov sense to the concepts of game theory, theory of frustration, or to an Agelast image, for example, etc. Synergetic also concepts often do not have suitable analogues for traditional concepts in humanities studies. Thus, the conceptual apparatus of synergetics enables research in directions that are completely new for the humanities, the psychotherapeutical process being one. In addition, in traditional humanities research, these concepts can reveal previously unknown interconnections, allowing a more profound understanding of humanitarian phenomenon through correlations with, for example, analogous non-linear phenomena, for example, of the early stages of the evolutionary development of matter. The latter, actually, possibly may emerge from a subconscious discovered archetypical information as a mathematical pattern. So thank you, dear colleague, for your very, very illuminating talk, and thank you, Violeta, for giving me.
Thank you for this comment. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ioannis. I think I saw also Ioannis Militis.
Yes,
he wanted to. Ioannis, okay, thank you.
Since we were referring about aesthetics, and some speakers already said about the connection on science and art and the aesthetic, we all know the paradigm of Dirac, who made the famous equation, and he kept the most delicate form, and he spoke about beauty. And he said when he reached at the point of this equation, it was the beauty that defined his sense there's something very important here. Some scholars say that this preoccupation with beauty of Dirac almost distracted him from real science after inventing it. So this is very important because aesthetics can be really dangerous sometimes. By means that, for example, the statistical patterns of patients, which we listened after my lecture, can provide some aesthetic background, some statistical informational patterns that are interesting, but to make it art, there is a different step has to be taken. In order to make art, you have to have an artist. And Plato is very defines this very well. In order to be to have dialectics, we don't need the written text. We just need the two humans interacting one to each other. This is very important in philosophy, to be alive, because texts have no life. They can they don't respond. That's the problem for Plato. So what I'm saying is that the patterns may formalize something that we can say, oh, here we have some kind of beauty, and this is important. We can stop here and see, why is this beautiful? Is the coding of this beauty something really important for us? It might be, yes. If it's really beauty, then the code that led to this statistical outcome, chromatic or whatever, might be interesting. That's what I wanted to say, connecting our two lectures.
A very good, very nice idea. Thank you so much. So Dušan, would you like to come again? Yeah. Unmute yourself, please. Unmute. Dušan. Yeah.
Well, I enjoyed both lectures. I see that there are no other hands in the air. So I'd like to say thank you to both speakers today. It was really a wonderful experience again. And goodbye to everybody. Violeta, wonderful work again. Klaus, thank you for introduction, and see you in 2 weeks.
See you.
Okay.
See you again. Thank you so much also.
Goodbye. Have a nice
Thank you so
weekend.
much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.